So part of our Building Generosity appeal this fall has us as pastors sharing with you stories about generosity. So I want to share a brief story with you about where I learned generosity from. Let's go back to the very beginning. I learned how to be generous from my father. He was the one who took us to church, who modeled just how to live fully into the Christian faith. And this is the example I want to share with you. At Thanksgiving, and this would have been back in the late 80s, early 90s. So I would have been, I'm going to tell you exactly how old I am now, right? I would have been high school, early college. My dad got into frying turkeys. Do you remember when that was the thing? Dad was doing it before the thing. He was frying, we aren't Cajun. So he was watching something on one of these Houston channels and learned how to fry a turkey, and he went all in. And he didn't fry just one turkey for Thanksgiving because that was a waste of oil. He would fry 6 or 7 of them, right? We would have everybody at the house out in Burton for Thanksgiving, and Dad would be outside with whomever frying turkeys. I'd be inside helping my aunt preparing the Thanksgiving meal. Except right before we were ready to serve, my dad would pull me out of the kitchen and leave her, and she would get so upset. But I get pulled from the kitchen, and my brother and I would have to get in the car with all those fried turkeys. Now, we still had 1 or 2 left at the house for us, but all the other turkeys that Dad fried, and I mean like 4 or 5 of them, we would put in the car along with bags of food that he had stashed in the car to take and deliver out to families who lived beyond our home. They lived out in the really rural areas of Washington County. And by really rural, I mean borderline third world kinds of living situations where they rent a porta potty because that's what they use. That 4 or 5 families share one well because they're all gathered right around it. So we would take and deliver meals to different families all out in the very rural areas, and then come home and eat our Thanksgiving dinner. So Dad taught us early on how to be generous on so many levels, but that we were the last ones to eat that day. We had to make sure everybody else got fed before we did. And that just permeated all the way through in so many levels of life for us. And so I would share that story about generosity and where I learned to be generous and learned to be who I am because of him, knowing that we model that for our own children and grandchildren. We model that for each other here at church as those younger than us look to us as bonus grandparents or aunts and uncles in their lives. So I would encourage you, there's the yellow insert is the Faith in Action for today. At the bottom, it really encourages you to start thinking about your own generosity. Perhaps start thinking about, where did you learn that from? Or is that a skill set you're still learning because it wasn't modeled for you when you grew up? And just kind of tilt you in that direction this week and think about where that comes from for you and how do you pass that on. With that, I'm going to invite us to now turn to the table to gather about Christ's table, which is a table that is filled with generosity as it is open to all. And so I would invite us to rise in body or spirit as you are able, and I'll go ahead and move up to the table.